We've been doing this for well over 10 years. Shoot for a Cure and the Canadian Spinal Research Organization got myself and Keith involved in an organization that would help with spinal cord injuries. About 5 years ago, we had decided, after Keith had taken his 4th documented concussion, that we also needed to include spinal cord and concussion together in the neurotrauma family. That means from the brain to the spine. So we're here today to talk about a very important part of it. It's concussions. We know the word, we've heard the word, mild traumatic brain injuries. My personal opinion is there is no mild part. We've got to realize that every time we damage a brain, whether it's a small damage or a large damage, it can grow into things that we don't want. We've got some technical difficulties that we're dealing with, so I'm going to do this without. You can see that today we're very casual. Keith and I have been 24/7 working on this. We have been in every part of the country talking. Keith lives in Philadelphia, I live here in Toronto, but we have been coast to coast. We've been in St. John, New Brunswick. We've been in St. John's, Newfoundland, flying all the way over to San Francisco to talk concussions. So without further ado, I'm going to ask my co-founder, Keith Primo, to step up. We're going to go in the back days and read off scripts. So first I'll pass Keith over to talk a little bit about the concussion.
Is it better if I use the microphone? First, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out again today, midday, and with everything else going on with the Hall of Fame. So we appreciate your presence and your support of our endeavor. As Kerry mentioned, when I retired in September of 06, I was coming off my 4th documented concussion in October of 05. Almost 6 years removed from my last concussion, I still suffer from post-concussion symptoms, most notably headaches and head pressure, not consistently, but consistently enough to know that I've damaged my brain. So the message that we share is one that I'm very passionate about, and one that's important for our youth. I want to go back to almost a year ago when Kerry and I first launched StopConcussions.com at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Our message was clean, clear, and simple. It was that we wanted to create an information portal for parents and people to come to gather as much information as they could and educate themselves as it relates to post-concussion and post-concussion symptoms. We think we've done that. And we're here today, again, to introduce a couple more of our alliances and our partnerships that will enable parents to continue to make themselves aware, educate themselves, and put their children in a much safer position, whether it's in the sport of ice hockey or whether it's in any other sport that they choose to participate in. So thank you for coming, and we appreciate your support.
Of course, Keith is going to be here afterwards for interviews. We've got some great people here. I just want to read off the list. We were going to see it up on our little television, but due to some technical difficulties, Wayne Primo, I know, is going to be here. Obviously a co-founder along with Wayne and Keith and myself. And also Ron Ellis, who is diligently working with the Hall of Fame right now. Of course, there's some big inductees going in. Dougie Gilmore, of course. If you were at the game last night, you would have seen that he's being inducted. Joe Nieuwendyk, Eddie Belfour, and Mark Howe. We want to congratulate them on a great day. We have the president who flew in this morning all the way from Omaha, Chris Circle from Battle Sports Science. You're going to hear a little bit more about their initiative. Dr. Don Hateri is here from the Youth Concussion Program in Peterborough. I want to thank him for making it. Don Graham is going to be up here talking about the importance of baseline testing. I know that's been a little bit controversy. Today what we want to do is set the table straight. I want you to understand how important baseline testing is. We have Dr. Michelle Keatley. She has developed a great program with Nick Reed called the Fit Mind Clinic. She's going to talk a little bit about that initiative. And of course, we can't do it without some great people that have suffered concussions, and they'll talk just a very brief moment about it. But we've got Dennis Marouk, 60 goals in National Hockey League with the Washington Capitals. I'm going to clap for that. 60 goals in the National Hockey League, can you believe it? Paul Rosen, winner of 2006 gold medal in, obviously, Torino. Can't thank you. In sledge hockey, can't thank you enough for being here. We've got Scott Oakman here. We've got, of course, Tim Fleischer. You're going to hear him talk about 4 Grey Cups, talking about hockey, but 4 Grey Cups, what an accomplishment. And Cam Stewart, a former NHLer who's been a great advocate of helping us get the message out. And one of my buddies, Troy Stephen, who I played hockey with, thank you for taking the time to be here today. What's really important is we got to understand that concussions do not take weekends off. We have to work 24/7 to inform and to educate. So it's really important that we know that there's no pill, there's no Band-Aid, there's no equipment. Only through education are we going to be able to walk through this. And of course, what we've done with Stop Concussions, we've built a platform that allows us to do that. It's a 4-step program. What that program allows us to do is to educate, prevent. Let's take the word prevent and turn it into reduce the incidence of, because we all know that preventing it is a bigger challenge than reducing the incidence of. We have to manage the injury better. We're not doing a great job. And that's why we've got some people here today to talk about that. And of course, the final part, medical research. We need to understand from a medical perspective and also from a logistic perspective. What do parents need to know in the research? What do coaches need to know? And of course, what do trainers need to know? So we built this platform on all sport. Today we're hockey-centric, of course announcing the Hockey Hall of Fame induction tonight, but more importantly, we know that concussions happen in all daily life. Whether you're playing sport, whether you're doing leisure activities, or just at home falling down a set of stairs, we need to understand those causes, effects, and consequences. Today's press conference, what we wanted to do is we wanted to set up 4 very important topics. 1, the Concussion Alliance. 2, baseline testing and understanding what it's about. Battle sports science, talking about some of the tools in the toolbox that can help us detect, not prevent, not diagnose, but to detect that there's a possible concussion. And then finally, one that's very, very close to my heart, you'll hear it from the family, the Eric Pelly Scholarship Foundation. We've set that up today. It's officially launched with Keith and myself, and you're going to hear a little bit about that from the family, and what an incredible story, what an incredible human being that we lost far too early in life over us not managing concussions properly. So, as we go forth now, I'm going to get rid of the microphone a little bit, and I'm going to bring up some of our distinguished guests. The Concussion Alliance, the Sports Legacy Institute with Chris Nowinski, Dr. Cantu, and here today, Tim Fleischer. They're going to talk a little bit about the importance of understanding research and how we need to go in the marketplace and teach and educate all of us. The Play It Cool hockey program, which you see here, is helping us to understand we need to change the mindset, not the game. Fit Mind Clinic will talk about their youth sport concussion program with Dr. Atera. The Teen Medical Health, who's watching this online, Dr. Culture has developed an opportunity for us to educate our youth, because our youth don't understand the severity, what can happen 6 years after a concussion, still living with symptoms. We need to understand what this does to our lives. And of course, we're very fortunate to have Kevin Hume from the Hockey Source, who's been an educational platform for us to get to the coaches, the parents of these youth, and educate them on the importance. So, without talking, as you can hear in my voice, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Dr. Don Hateri from the Youth Sports Concussion Program to talk about their program and how they're bringing all the doctors together to understand that when you go to a clinic, when you go to the emergency, that you're getting the same message. Dr. Don Hateri. And Laura Kennedy.
Thanks very much, Gary. Every person needs lots of help, so I brought Laura Kennedy with me, who is helping us in Peterborough with our youth sports concussion program. I'm going to ask her just to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll kick in a little bit of the medical background.
Thanks, Don. So our program in Peterborough is called the Youth Sports Concussion Program. And what we're trying to do with that program is fairly ambitious. We're the administrative body of 5 family health teams in Peterborough. So all of our primary care providers are all networked. And we have 100% participation from all of our family physicians, which allows us to create a program like this, which essentially is going to create standardized best practices and protocols around the clinical diagnosis, assessment, treatment, and management of concussion in our youth. And one of the tools in our box for that program is baseline testing. So we have over 15,000 kids in our city and county that are cared for by our primary care providers, and we're going to be providing free baseline testing for all of those kids. We're piloting right now with our school boards through partnerships we've been able to establish with both our local school boards, and we're hopeful that by fall 2012, every child from the age of 10 right through until they graduate high school will have a baseline test done at the school through our partnership.
Good. Thanks, Laura. We're working in conjunction with one of our specialists, Dr. Derek Crete, who's a specialist in rehabilitation medicine. As Laura said, we're trying to get every child from 10 to end of high school to go through a pre-test, so we'll have a baseline test for them, and through Dr. Crete we will be educating our primary care providers, our family doctors, our nurse practitioners, coaches and trainers. We hope to have an expert team that we will be able to respond to any child that is hurt. We'll be able to see them within 48 hours and make sure that that we get them properly managed and assessed by our medical personnel.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It's important. There are so many different facets to concussions that today we have an opportunity to talk about all of them. There are different baseline companies. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But we've been very fortunate to work not only with the great group from Peterborough, but also CMRG, and you'll hear talk about the impact in just a few minutes. One person I got to tell you that I've been truly blessed to have met through my travels. My history of concussion not very well documented, but I did go through it at 30. I went through a very major depression and didn't realize until I met Ron Ellis, and he walked me through what I was living that I took as a personal disease, I guess you would call it, and I did not manage the concussion properly. So when I got a chance to talk not only to Ron Ellis, who will be here in a few minutes, but also this lady, Dr. Michelle Keatley, I had the opportunity to understand a little bit more about what I've been going through personally and what we hear about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people all across this great country. Dr. Michelle Keatley, along with Nick Reed, have developed a very important platform here in our city of Toronto. It's in the GTHA, of course, the Greater Toronto Area. Dr. Michelle Keatley.
Thanks, Carrie. So over the past 5 years, I've been a professor at the University of Toronto, and we've been conducting research looking at recovery from concussion in youth hockey. And this in particular has been a passion of mine because so much of the research that's currently out there is based on professional players and college-level athletes. And as a pediatric neuropsychologist, I was really concerned because a kid's brain is still developing to better understand what happens when we sustain concussions in youth hockey. So as part of that research, we realized that there really was a need to have some better clinical services, because as Carrie mentioned, it's not just about the baseline testing and the prevention, but also managing the injury. And the hopes are that by managing the injury properly at a younger age, that we might be able to prevent those subsequent concussions that can start to have some of those deleterious effects that we see. So Fitline Clinics, and for more information you can go to the website, fitlineclinics.com. We offer sort of a 4-tier program that is a comprehensive concussion management program. Those 4 tiers include education, because we first and foremost believe that is just at the heart of everything that we do, is that need to increase the amount of education available to people. We also offer baseline testing, and we offer a very comprehensive baseline testing program because we know that people can be affected by concussion in a number of areas, and those areas are physical, emotional, as well as cognitive. So we like to try and assess all those areas. And the reason that baseline testing is so important is that the research has also shown that people can demonstrate impairments relative to their own performance, but not necessarily relative to a normative group. So when we do these tests, we like to compare performance to an average that we see for everybody in sort of the same age range. And if we don't do a baseline testing and we just compare them to the norm, that person might seem like they're fine. But really relative to how they would have scored before they were injured, they may actually show a decrease in performance, which can indicate that their brain is not recovered from that injury. So that's why individual baseline testing is such a crucial tool in that toolbox. The other piece of the clinical service is to manage the return to play, especially in the youth hockey program. It really puts a lot of pressure on parents to try and struggle with making that decision about is the athlete ready to return to play or not. And there is now, thanks to a number of consensus conference held by the International Sport Concussion Conferences, there are consensus guidelines about how to determine that readiness to return to play. And that's what we do in the clinic, is we do the appropriate exertion testing and follow the protocols that are recommended in order to determine readiness to return to play. And the fourth tier is always research. We just want to keep offering a great service that can contribute back to the research literature to know more about how to recover better. So thanks, Carrie, for the opportunity.
Dr. Michelle, thank you very, very much. One of the things that Laura Kennedy forgot to mention with the Concussion Alliance is we are flying on Wednesday, and we will be in Vancouver working with a bunch of groups, a bunch of doctors coming together to help us understand the concussion aspects of how we deliver that, obviously, in the medical world. Well, let's move to baseline, a very important part of this. We know that there are several opportunities, but one of them is called the King-Divic removal of play. Keith and I both have done extensive research on it. We've had Dr. Willie Montepar from our research team understand it, and we found that it's really important to understand when to get the player out of the game. More importantly, when to get him in, because we talk about return to play, we really look at it as a return to life. As soon as we can diagnose and detect the signs and symptoms of a concussion, we need to get them out of the game. And of course that deals with second impact syndrome. So it's very, very important that we have tests like King-Divic. And there's not one perfect test, we understand that. But we need to be on the street and understanding that with all these tools, we can make it better for our children. CMRT, the impact baseline testing, you're going to hear from Dr. Pat Graham about that in just a few minutes, and the importance of baseline. And finally, in the baseline testing, there's more, but we also know that Axon Sports, which is going through the youth program in Peterborough, is very, very important. So, if I could ask Dr. Pat Graham to come up and talk a little bit just about baseline testing and the importance of it. Of course, he's a doctor of chiropractor, but you best know him as the doctor from the Blue Jays.
Thank you, Carrie. We have a sports injury clinic, sports performance clinic in Mississauga, and we found that there just wasn't the message getting out to the masses. So we were going around talking to teams about the importance of how to recognize a concussion, how to manage the concussion as best as possible, and then also the importance of baseline testing. We just heard about different types of baseline testing, the physical aspects, the neurocognitive aspects. At our clinic, what I'm going to talk about today is just how we use the, we use the impact test. And what we use that for is just, as they say, it's a baseline. The gold standard would be to have a kid assessed through a neurologist in a 6-hour exam, but that's just not reality, and to get an appointment with a neurologist might take you 6 months. So we use the baseline test as a tool together with exertion testing, symptom screening, and just their overall physical signs to determine when a child can come back to play. The problem we're having is we're talking to the parents, we're out talking to teams and organizations, but the message isn't getting out there about the importance of the baseline test. So these parents walk away from the talks that we do, they're all gung-ho, and then when they get home, maybe 3 out of the 18 do the baseline test. Then all of a sudden we'll have 3 kids show up at the clinic with concussions, and by the time we're doing those tests, we don't have that baseline to compare it to. There are some age specifics there, but it's just not good enough. So I can't emphasize the importance of, whether it be the impact test or the Axon test, to get the kids tested, just as a tool so that we can determine whether they can get back to play better than we could before. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Dr. Pat Graham. Obviously, we talk about return to play, but it's very important to understand that we have many young athletes that we're working with are dealing with living in darkness for 12, 14 months. And I know that's why we are here today to say that we need to find a better way to manage these injuries. Well, I'll tell you, one of the ways that we're looking at detecting some of these injuries is through a partner of ours, Battle Sports Science. This gentleman flew all the way in from Omaha, as I mentioned. Obviously, I won't tell you the airline that he flew with. He couldn't come in yesterday night, but of course, he wanted to make sure that he was here today, so he changed all his plans. Without them, of course, we wouldn't be here today. They took the time and energy, along with Fred Nykamp and Gary Hemmel. We got to thank you very much for the party last night that we put on here with a bunch of great athletes talking about concussions, understanding it better, and of course, without Chris Circle coming up and helping us understand concussions and the detection better. Chris Circle.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having us. It's very, very important, I think, that we get the message out. What I'd like to do today is tell you guys a story, and it's an impactful story, and hopefully it's a story that will move people, because from where I sit today, people still don't get it. They don't understand what this injury can do. From my perspective, I've had 5 concussions, had my first seizure when I was 21, all from sports and fighting, but it's certainly a lifelong issue that I deal with every single day. So this is a passion of mine. We make a number of other sporting goods products, but this is 2.5 years, 4 years actually in the making, 2.5 years field testing. We just brought this product out. But here's the story. There is a young man by the name of Austin Trenholm, 17 years old, United States, played football, had his 3rd concussion. Everybody missed it along the way. Coaches, trainers, parents, emergency room doctors. His personality changed. He took his own life. Horrible story. We were fortunate enough to get introduced to his parents, who helped us kind of guide us, if you will, along the way. We had this product on his 11-year-old brother roughly 3 months ago. 85-pound kid, pee-wee football. No one's on the sidelines. No doctors, no trainers, no one to administer any kind of test, right? The kid takes a helmet-to-helmet hit, he pops back up, he heads for the huddle, the light's red. One of his buddies tells him that his light is red. He goes out of the game. His parents are obviously sensitive to head injury, and so they sit him out. The next day, his personality starts to change. He starts to have balance issues. He's diagnosed with a concussion. That does not happen every time when one of these lights goes off. Our product is about indicating when an athlete has sustained an impact that has crossed into a threshold where head trauma is more likely. Everyone has a different an individual concussion threshold. But what we're trying to do in this fight is put an extra set of eyes out on the field, out on the ice, wherever you play your game, to help people understand that high-level impacts, and you can go to our website and take a look at how we define that, are more likely to cause head trauma, because we're trying to get them to the sidelines for evaluation, for baseline testing, for King Divot testing. But guess what? I don't know what the stats are in this country, but for the 5.5 million kids that play football in the United States under 12 years old, 13 years old, guess who's on the sidelines? Parents, coaches. And they're really, really not educated enough to help in this fight. So we have 2 gentlemen up here, Joel and Ryan, who play for the Greater Toronto Hockey League, Minor Midget AAA. Their team's going to be wearing this device. It's just come out for hockey, so we're very excited to start to get the feedback on what we can do and continue to improve the product, take research to the next level, because we look at all the research that's done in the lab, in the field, and how we can incorporate it to help all of you who are trying to fight this issue. Because what I always say is, it's going to take a village. It's not going to be one global panacea that comes together that solves this problem. Everyone's going to have to come together and deal with technology, deal with education, deal with prevention, deal with rule changes, deal with changes in play to get after this thing. So we're very, very fortunate to be a part of this. We're very lucky to be a part of it. And whatever we can do to help these guys educate, promote, and make sure that parents understand something. One last thing that I want to say. I'm reading a book right now called The Concussion Crisis. It just came out. Fantastic book. Reading it on the plane on the way up here. They did a study in 2010 in the States about how many parents whose kids play contact sports really understood the concussion issue. 8%. 8%. So I say people, you just don't get it yet. And you need to, because these are lifelong effects of head injury. Not a week, not 2 weeks. It can be forever.
Oh, well done. Thanks, Chris. Well, there's some very important statements there. Of course, it's not one tool, it's lots of tools. And this is one of the tools in our toolbox that we know and believe in that are going to help detect these injuries. With that said, talking about some of the younger players, I had the opportunity this year to, and they're the leaders as far as I'm concerned. They're the ones that stepped up and said, we got to make a change. They took some challenges along the way with baseline testing. They took some challenges with Keith and I to understand, is our message the message that the parents want to hear? So what we did is we went and met with a gentleman named Scott Oakman. He's the executive director from the GTHL. He stepped out of the comfort zone. He didn't realize that he would get a couple of passionate dudes that understand what a concussion means and what it can do to change their lives. And he didn't understand we'd be firepower and in his face a lot, but I'll tell you what, he's taken up every challenge. And he's going to talk a little bit about the changing of the mindset and why we need tools to deal with this very enormous problem. Scott Oakman, Executive Director from the GTHL.
Thank you, Kerry. The point Kerry just made was true in terms of the challenges that are faced, and we've heard discussions that parents are uneducated, and that is very true. But I stand here before you 3 months into our hockey season, and what we've done so far has had a tremendous impact on the game. Prior to the season, there was a Hockey Canada rule change that impacted any contact to the head and neck area. That has made a tremendous change in the way the game is played, both with the intended consequences of reducing the amount of incidences of contact to the head, but there's a whole series of unintended consequences that have transpired because of the rule change. The players are clearly demonstrating more respect for each other. Issues after the whistle have basically gone away. You don't see pushing and shoving after the whistle. The whistle goes, players vacate the area. We also ran a series of information sessions, and I'd like to really thank Keith and Kerry, and specifically Kerry. In a 3-week period, Kerry did, I think, 12 or 14 sessions with our coaches and trainers to work on the education side. And Kerry's message was loud and clear. And for those of you that know Kerry, know that he can be loud and clear, but it was a loud and clear message that needed to be delivered, and it has been delivered. But we're not all the way there yet. We have lots of challenges, and all of the pieces of the puzzle that you're hearing about today will continue to make the game safer for kids who are willing and wanting to play the game and wanting to leave the game healthier than when they started playing the game, and that's what this is really about. So thank you, Kerry, for doing this. All of this has a tremendous impact, is having a tremendous impact, and if you want to see that impact, just go to a minor hockey game anywhere in the GTA tonight and you will see the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Keith, on the way over here, we had a little bit of a discussion. Keith coaches his sons in Philadelphia, and he actually made reference to the fact that they came up to Peterborough. It was Peterborough. I watched the game. It was a really good hockey game, and a lot of that extra shenanigans after the whistle have stopped, but also some of the headshots have been eliminated by these new rules. So I give a call out to Hockey Canada for stepping up and doing that, and of course GTHL, OMHA, a bunch of the associations all across this great country have done that. Next, I want to bring up not a hockey player, but somebody that has a tremendous history in sport, and a gentleman that is going across this country to help us get the message out. He's a gentleman with the Sports Legacy Institute, our good friend Chris Nowinski, who both Keith and I have donated our brains. They want Keith's brain earlier than mine because they know his is more valuable, is what they think, but we still both have our brains. But I'll tell you what, with Tim Fleischer, I met him. You think we have passion? Tim Fleischer has passion to help make a difference. I know he's a little bit sad. He flew in this morning. He canceled his flight to come here last night because he had to go to the Hamilton-Montreal game because he's an alumni from the Montreal Alouettes, and he'll talk a little bit about that. Tim Fleischer.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Very, very proud to represent the Sports Legacy Institute, to work with Kerry, to work with Keith. Quite simply put, the mission of the Sports Legacy Institute is to solve the concussion crisis. And our approach to that is three-pronged. We'll do that with awareness and education initiatives, with research, and with treatment. And certainly very proud to partner with StopConcussions.com and the great work that they've done in terms of bringing awareness to this issue. Not just to recognizing and diagnosing the symptoms of a concussion, return to play guidelines, but also in terms of the degenerative brain disease that the doctors down at Sports Legacy have identified, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, which for those of you who don't know is associated with a much higher incidence of dementia, substance abuse, and depression. And as a former football player, and for speaking for all former athletes, you know, this is something that is a very serious issue, something that requires further research, further work, and you know, again, very proud to be associated with the Sports Legacy Institute and Chris Nowinski and Dr. Robert Cantu, who have done fantastic work with this regard and have brought attention to the issue. Also proud to represent the CFL as a former CFL player. Was great to be at the Montreal-Hamilton game yesterday, where they put on a fantastic performance. I believe it was the highest scoring game in the history of the CFL playoffs. And again, I'd like to thank these guys for the great work that they've done, because we want to see sport continue. We want to see our athletes be safe, both on the professional and on the minor levels. So thanks, guys. Thanks for having me here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave. A couple more call-outs online. Brooke, I want to say hello to you, Mum's team. If you get a chance, I would take this email ad or this website down, mumsteam.com, an incredible information source for you to get more information as a parent, not only about concussions, but about all injuries in sport and in our lives. And John Shahade from CMRG, I know you're out there. Thank you for taking the time. I think this is why we're here. This is a story that is not only compelling, but it puts a face to a family, not specifically to one individual, but to thousands of individuals all across North America. I got a call a few months, it must have been 2 years ago, I think it was. Keith had sent me an email that they got a request for a number 88 jersey. And I thought, 88, why would they want a Philadelphia Flyers jersey 88 when we got number 25, Keith Primo? And the lady got a hold of me and said, listen, we're holding a fundraiser for my son. We lost him a few years back. And I gotta tell you, I'm a little emotional because I had an opportunity to go down there 2 years ago, the last year actually, to their function. And it made me understand how real this is. And it's real. Joan Pelly over the phone said, my son wore number 88 in honor of Eric Lindros. So I got Keith to make a call, and of course Eric Lindros, without any hesitation, wrote his name on a back of a jersey. I sent it down not knowing Joan or the family. They got it, they raised some money, lots of money, and they decided that because we took the time and energy to help them, they wanted to help us. So they asked me last year to come down to an event and be a part of the Eric Pelly Scholarship Fund event. And it was a basketball event. I'm not very good at basketball. They asked me to play, but I had far too many injuries to do that. And I watched these kids and adults run around the basketball court, throwing this ball around. And I got to meet people and understand how much Eric Pelly meant to their community. They drove up this weekend all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to be a part of this because they know that this is not Canada. This is not the United States. This is the world that we're dealing with. We have an epidemic, and the only way we're going to clear up this epidemic is making sure that we educate all of us. I had breakfast yesterday morning with Boris Salming, who now has agreed with them to help us bring it to Sweden. My friend who works with the Hanover Scorpions has agreed to bring it to Germany. Stop Concussions has become global. And the reason is because Joan Pelly took the time and energy to call us and say, we need help. The Eric Pelly Scholarship Foundation starts today. It lives here today in Canada. We are announcing today that we will have the first ever Eric Pelly Scholarship Foundation. We could have picked kids all across the country, and we will. We'll continue honoring their names all throughout this great country. But it's not a country, it's the world. Joan, Mark, Jenna, and Reed lost because of our mismanagement of this injury. And I want to call Joan up. I feel the pain, but I'll tell you what, you've not let Eric's death go in vain. Eric Pelly was an incredible individual. You'll hear that from Joan. But the real key words there is never give up, and that's one thing Eric never did. So we're not giving up. We are announcing the first foundation education fund right here today.
Thank you. I'm really here to thank. I would like to extend a huge thank you to Stop Concussions for honoring Eric's life with this scholarship. Our family has been passionate about trying to spread the word about concussions since this has happened to our son. And Carrie has been there for us the whole time. He has really helped us. And I'm really nervous.
You're okay. You're okay.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
I met Carrie and have been talking to him ever since. And he introduced us to the Stop Concussion platform, which I thought is the best. I have been obsessively looking at different groups online ever since Eric's death. And I just believe that Stop Concussions has a phenomenal platform, and they're doing a wonderful job of spreading the word and trying to protect other children. We're happy, proud to be associated with Stop Concussions in our pursuit to save other children, adults, from life-altering brain injuries or possibly death. And we look forward to working with Stop Concussions in the future as we pursue this very important task. Thank you.
It affects lives. It affects all great people around this country. And so that's why we've taken the initiative to be here today. As we, I know there's a lot of people that want to interview. Keith is here. But I want to go through some of the athletes that have taken the time to be here today and give them the opportunity to give you a few words about what they've dealt with and the importance of us dealing with this every day. I know Wayne Primo wanted to make it here today. I don't think he's made it yet, but I know he's going to join us a little bit later on. One of the guys that has been truly an inspiration to me. He's probably been the mentor to allow me to step up and talk about my inability to deal with my concussion. I went through depression. It's not easy to tell people that you've been depressed. It's very personal. But I love this guy, you love this guy, and I want him to come up and say a few words. Not in the Hall of Fame yet, but he's in my Hall of Fame, Ron Ellis.
Thanks for putting me on the spot here.
I'll take your bag.
This is a very full weekend, as you know. I'm involved with the Hockey Hall of Fame on staff, and we just had a wonderful luncheon where we honored the broadcaster of the year, who happens to be Mickey Redmond.
Yes.
Right. A few of us played against Mickey, and I was a teammate of his with Team Canada in 1972, and it was so nice to see him there with his family. And also broadcaster from the Edmonton Journal, Terry Jones was selected as the sports writer of the year. So I just came over from that. I'm sorry I'm a little late, buddy.
Oh, that's all right.
But it's great to be, I was asked to be an advisor, and I said whatever I can do. And Keith, I congratulate you, of course. and Carrie for all the work, and your staff. I know you got a lot of people behind you. You got two good guys standing right beside you. This is a very, very important topic to deal with. At the professional level, it's being dealt with to some degree. We've got a long way to go, and it's people like Keith that are going to help us get there. But we're also concerned about the younger folks that are playing the game today, young girls, young boys. And it's not just hockey. It's soccer. It's baseball. It's football. These things happen in life. A young person can fall off a skateboard. I mean, it will touch all parts of our lives and our families and our friends and our loved ones. So I want to just congratulate everybody who's here as part of the group and really thank the press for being here. This is very, very important. We've got to move forward. We're getting traction because of some people who are willing to stand up, like Keith Primo and Carrie Goulet. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Ronnie. We'll go through a couple more athletes who've taken the time to be here, and then they're all here for questions. I know that the Hockey Hall of Fame has done a great job in allowing us to be a part of their great weekend. I saw Peter Tagler earlier. Thank you for that. Next guy, I'll tell you what, if you haven't heard him speak, you know that this man has had trials and tribulations all throughout his life, but he told us, I want to be a part of this. I need to be a part of this because I need you to understand this doesn't happen to able-bodied athletes. It happens to athletes that have either lost limbs or lost the ability to play sport. Paul Rosen, winner of the 2006 sledge hockey Olympic gold for our country.
Thanks, Terry. Make sure I get my leg in the right spot. Thanks, I appreciate it, and it's a huge honor for me to be a part of StopConcussions.com with Carrie and Keith and all the great people, not just athletes, because I'm the first disabled athlete or athlete with a disability to step forward in the game that I played. I lost my leg in June of 1999, and I didn't realize that 13 years later, concussions would be way tougher to deal with than losing my leg. My leg was an absolute joke, losing that, to the way I dealt with it, to what I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I made this great game, sledge hockey, for this great country we live in, the greatest country in the world, I think, Canada. In the year 2000, I played in 3 Olympic Games and in 5 World Championships. And one of the things that has happened, and this is why it's so important to get the community out there, the disabled community, because concussions don't hold preference to anybody. I'm missing my leg. I played this game. It was a vicious game. And the concussions that I have, I want to help the young kids, that little boy who's in St. John's, Newfoundland, or Surrey, BC, who's playing sledge hockey and going to get a concussion, to realize that there's help out there, and it's education. And one of the things that happened to me before the games of Salt Lake City, I had a concussion. It was a vicious hit. I got hit by a guy in Estonia. His sled caught me in the head. And the thing that was really told to me, because I was the #1 guy, was suck it up. We need you. And that's the one thing I think we have to get out of this mentality, whether kids are 10 years old or playing professional hockey, is get that mentality out of suck it up. An injury is an injury, and this is the one thing that I'm learning every day now at 51 years old and retired from this great game, is the things that I'm dealing with every day are so difficult to deal with, and it's all about education. We have to tell people and get people all over this world to realize that one hit to the head is one hit too many. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. 2 more people I want to introduce. One is a guy that we got involved with a couple of years ago. He's played in the National Hockey League. He's a tough son of a gun. Cam Stewart is here. Cam Stewart. Here's Cam.
I was trying to hide in the back there, but yeah, I actually had 6 documented concussions, and the last one in 2002 I had to retire. My last 2 were unconscious, and I've actually been dealing with post-concussion syndrome, as is Keith here, for probably about 8 years. So the reason I'm here is just to support the cause. Now, what Keith and Carrie are doing, they're creating a toolbox. And there's a toolbox for parents, for kids themselves, And for ex-players like ourselves, it's funny because we as athletes, we try and integrate ourselves into society, and that's probably one of the toughest things for a pro athlete when you're 18,000 people screaming your name and then all of a sudden your career's cut short. And I've kind of tried to do the same thing, and we try and make a difference. And I actually work for a company called Bite Tech, and it's Under Armour's performance mouthwear. And from a concussion standpoint, there's not a lot of mouth guard can do, but it can reduce G-force to a blow to your jaw. But we're protecting kids. We're protecting oral facial trauma, and that's something that I've tried to do here as well, is just help protect the kids, and obviously give the parents a toolbox to use, and that's what these guys have done, and that's why I'm here to support and will support the whole time. Thanks, buddy.
Cameron?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Anxiety, too.
It's important to hear from these gentlemen. We did make some invites to some of the ladies today. Unfortunately, they were not able to attend. We know that this concussion issue is male, female, of course, boys and girls. Final person we'll put on the spot, Dennis Marouk. I met him a couple of years ago at a couple of celebrity events. He's given his time and energy for great causes all across the world. And we got a chance to talk about concussions. It took him a little bit to realize that he's part of the issue. So he's part of the solution also by being able to be one of our ambassadors, Dennis Marouk.
Well, welcome everybody today. Yeah, I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for a nice trainer in junior. I got hit from blindside and swallowed my tongue. My hands and legs were flying all over the place, and if it wasn't for that trainer to pull my tongue out, I wouldn't be standing right here. So I've had a few concussions playing the game. I also played another aggressive sport called lacrosse, and I had a concussion there. And I think the main message that I'm trying to get across, and what I'd like to see is how do we find out that these young children playing aggressive sports, everybody's got a brain, and how are their brains developing, and they're into that contact sport, and then they get to the professional level, and all of a sudden they get hit, and then they can't play anymore. So I think it's a mess. I like to see them try and find out with the youth sports, what they can do, and find out with all the programs that are going on, what I'm hearing about. I think we're going to find some answers. So, and I just think that what Carrie and Keith, what they're doing, and everybody that's been here, the doctors and everything, I think we're going to cure this. And I think that what we're seeing, you look in junior hockey right now, the suspensions. Look at me, I'm 5'8", 6'4", 6'5", and when I played, I had a lot of respect. I didn't get hit in the head when I was playing, my 14 years when playing hockey. I think what's happened now, the respect has kind of gotten out of it. Now they're looking at the headshots, and I think even at the youth age, the players have to respect each other a little bit more. It's just a run and gun game right now. Everybody's bigger, faster, stronger, and we got to keep educating the coaches. Coaches just aren't there to coach. They're there to know the players and to help them out and train them and teach them and everything. So that's kind of my message, basically, that we get all of the respect, and I just want to thank y'all.
Thanks, Dennis. Okay, I know we've been standing around here quite a little bit longer than we wanted to. Both Keith and I know that you've got very busy schedules. Keith is going to be available. I know Chris Circle is going to be available for interviews. I know the boys are here. Please, if you want, you have all the opportunities up here to interview. But as you leave, the most important message that I want to leave with you today is, you break a leg, you break an arm, we put a cast on it, we see it. You break a brain, and that's basically what we're doing for layman terms. We're breaking a brain. And we're not able to touch it, feel it, smell it. And without the great doctors and researchers out there, we don't know exactly what to do. So we need them to come with us and help the parents, the coaches, the trainers, the families of the loved ones, so that we can get back to living sport and life as they were meant. So I thank you for taking the time and energy, and we're here for you 24/7 to help make sure we reduce the incidences of concussions. And I want to thank Chris Circo, Gary, and Fred from Battle Sports Science for helping us make this possible today. Thank you.